From the Lager Logs HQ, Points of View with Tommy Tittlemouse. Tensions rise in the Middle East as citizens of Iran start walking. Andrew Lloyd Webber is back, but critics slam Phantom of the Opera. Holland signs petition to impose ban on the phrase Dutch courage. And MPs vote in favour of harsher sentences for hooch harassment. Good evening. Scientists are now reporting news is okay, but beer is better. Welcome to the Lager Logs Points of View with Tom and Stu. I'm Tom, he's Stu. Say hello, Stu.
Hello. I apologise. I don't have an introduction as extravagant and partially dated as that one.
Look, you gotta do your homework. You know, a little bit of preparation. I think it goes a long way, Stu. Guys, welcome to tonight's episode. Thank you for being here. We have another booze review plus interview lined up for your listening pleasure, and we truly hope you're enjoying the new format. But if you're not, I'll be disappointed, as it took me ages to wipe this USB. Stu, who are you? What are you doing in my kitchen?
Thomas, I'm joining you via the internet. I don't know who is in your kitchen.
Oh shit! Give me a few seconds. Get out!
Just tell them to pass you that beer.
There's no beer in the fridge. I promise. Look, no, I need those 51 bottles. They're mine for my own leisure time. Thank you. Cheers. He's gone.
Okay.
He's gone. So you're okay?
Yes, I am bloody thirsty.
That is good to hear. Tonight, man, you know this. I know this. These guys might not know this, but the interviews just keep coming in a non-stop pounding assault to put Johnny Sins in a snowball fight to shame. We speak with Geoff of the Brewgooders later in the episode, but first up, we take on Vault City's Iron Brew beer, which I'm sure offers up a unique taste fusion of girders and copyright infringement. Let's not waste any more time and crack this can wide open. It's Iron Brew!
Sour. Strong and irony.
Iron Brew Sour! Is that better?
They can. Who were you trying to be? Who were you channeling?
You!
I feel like some cunt from Last of the Summer Wine that fell through bite.
Is that's a very specific reference.
They can.
Which episode is that? Which season? I need to go back to that. So yeah, do you want to crack this bad boy open?
Yes.
Let's do it. I cannot wait.
I know these have been sat in the fridge for a wee while.
Long time, man. Long time. But tonight is the night. Woo!
Oh, it's got that smell.
That smell. Oh, well, like piss and rice pudding. What? What is that?
So yes, this is a controversial drink. I'll warn you now, this is actually my second tin.
Oh, you have had this before?
Yeah, I decided to try it a few weeks ago.
Ah, you cheeky bugger, doing it without me. I'm heartbroken.
When I was in Edinburgh for the Belfield Brewery tour. Oh, I'm sorry, we've turned into home and away for a second. It's a ratio here. I stopped into the wee Vault, which is a bottle shop near Haymarket. And I believe it's just some sort of bottle shop, but it's from the Vault City crew now. So I guess it's just one of their. It's a tiny little tap room, which has more taps than seats, I believe. I think there's 10 stools and 24 beers on tap.
I like that ratio.
So, and it says, I believe it was just near enough all of their stuff. And of course, that is, as far as I know, the only place that still is slinging Iron Brew.
So it seems to be fairly hard to find, or a bit rarer to find?
I feel like it was like the sour of the week back in, I don't know, was it February? So, or it was lining up with Burns Night. So it came out then, and obviously I feel like they have a new beer. It was Apple Sewers last week. That
Apple
kind of line.
sewers.
Yes,
Apple sewers.
as
Like
in like
underground,
sour, but
wet.
also maybe a wordplay with that drink they used to take shots of Apple Sewers. Sourz.
Sours.
Yeah,
Sows.
yeah, but they done sewer, so it was another play on words. You had Iron Brew, they have Apple Sewers, and it was just like a blinding green sour beer. And
Okay.
came out around the same week as St. Patrick's Day. So like they've got their
That's
sort
nice.
of marketing to a T. Like they know when to release like a themed beer. Whereas like, man, I should really take a picture of beer for Instagram on St. Patrick's Day. Wait, this beer's fucking brighter than the Green Lantern. I'll get you.
Fluorescent. Yeah, I got confused. I thought you meant like
Not
sewers.
from the sewer. No.
I thought that you
they
meant
they weren't scooping shite out the river. And then
I thought that the green color to it might be in tribute to the ooze that created the Ninja Turtles.
No.
Was that pink? I think actually in hindsight.
Yeah, it was definitely another fluorescent color.
Guys, no Turtles affiliation at all tonight. It's beer, just to confirm. I'm excited. Do you? Oh no, sorry. Well, have you had any Vault City stuff in the past aside from this one?
I've had two. One of them was a beer 52 beer, and I think we've discussed that on a future episode. And I had one of their pina colada sours, which was very tropical. But it's the fine line of sours. Like when sour is like a very distant cousin of beer, I believe.
Yeah.
I would love to kind of see how they brew their beers in comparison to others, because I feel sour's a completely different beast itself. It kind of
definitely.
It's the faint line between sort of like going into cider territory and beer.
Definitely, yeah, it's definitely a fine line for sure. I mean, this. I was going to say this has got like a cidery kind of wheat beer kind of vibe to it in terms of the smell for me.
Color down.
Oh, definitely. That definitely looks like Iron Brew. Yeah, I think I do remember you mentioned that Vault City beer. But with our recording schedule at the moment, the way it is, I mean, it's a bit topsy turvy. So forgive me, Stu, or I might have just not been listening to you.
That's definitely
either way
is
acceptable.
Why don't we taste this blinking beer?
You want to do it now?
We are a beer podcast.
It makes sense. It's a good fit for us. Cheers, Stu.
It's different, isn't it?
Okay. It's definitely got the Iron Brew flavor.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously a lot more sour than Iron Brew is. It tastes like, what's the fizzy, chewy bars you get?
Oh, it's sort of like the Iron Brew chews.
Yeah. Well, yes, yeah, of course. Sorry, yeah. Cause I know you can get the Vimto ones.
Yeah, I think it was like Brew chews or something, but it is where it would just be wrapped in plastic, and it's just like a little strip, almost like the ruler you would get in primary school.
Yeah, like
that
kind
length of bright orange.
Yeah, like stretchy but teeth-breakingly hard.
Yeah, you take a bite and then just stretch it, and you get little fangs and
lose a molar.
That's it. It would strip you of your fillings, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, it is something else that was based on. I think there are variations of this particular sweet that I am thinking of. That
like
is
how you would get like a refresher. How it would be like on a lolly.
Kind of similar vibe.
It's kind of got your old school sweet vibe to it.
Definitely got old school kind of tangy sweet vibe to it. It's interesting. I'm not against it at all. It doesn't taste much like beer to me, but
that's
going
where
down.
The line blurs when it becomes sour territory.
Yeah, of course.
We classed that Cherry Bacchus beer as that was a cherry beer, but that was like again
that was a sour, and that was really good, and I enjoyed it, but again, didn't taste like a beer, at all to me.
See that's it. And I know, let's see, when I tried it last month, I kind of had the same feeling as I had now, and then shared the tin with my wife. So I just left half a tin, went back to watching TV, and it was about 10 minutes later. I was like, oh, Jesus, no, you can have that. You can have that. And so we'd been drinking beer all day at Belfield. So I think she became accustomed to what beer's like. This is what beer should be tasting like. Take a drink of this. I'm like, wait, this is like sugary, flat cider, but really, really sour. What's going on? And just like, no, I am not a sour person. So.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, I suppose, especially after a bunch of beers. It could be a bit hard on the stomach, really.
Like lager and pilsners.
So yeah, it's a bit of a different thing to
come
end
across
on.
something this fruity and sour
At the back
if you weren't expecting it, yeah.
Woo! Coming out of nowhere. Right, so sitting at a flirty 5.5%, we have Iron Brew Sour from Vault City Brewing, based in Portello, Edinburgh. These guys were founded back in 2018, so fairly new to the biz, by Stephen Smith and Johnny Horn. Concentrating initially.
Good job. Good save.
On small batches of beer
to
Scotland. It wasn't long before the brews hit the UK, and they were soon to be the golden boys of the International Beer Festival circuit, with a breakout appearance at that year's Beavertown Extravaganza. Sounds like a hoot. It was the elderflower sour and mango sour beers that broke them into the mainstream, and they seemed to concentrate on the pudding or dessert side of beer making, with their catalogue stuffed with such brews as pineapple upside down cake.
Ah, yes.
Guava banana banoffee toffee smoothie.
Wow.
And the 10.5% fruits of the forest triple stacked breakfast waffle.
Ah, yes. I believe that one was on tap.
These lads love to get a little fruity, I tell you.
Like the percentages vary. Like I think that waffle one was high.
Yeah.
I can't imagine getting pissed off a breakfast beer.
Man, you're getting into the dessert wine territory at this point. Madness. Right, Stu, let's get into the nitty gritty. It's Last Beers Watched. I think I forgot to clap the last couple of times, so I want to continue that tradition because it's a great segment, and I feel like it deserves it.
Yes.
What's been going on with you, Stu?
I've been celebrating. I finally broke the seal on the 10.5% Supernova. This Spey Valley Imperial Stout, my first Imperial Stout, set at 10.5%.
I have been gagging to hear your views on this one. How did it go down, man?
It was such a weird beer to drink. I think just with the high percentage you were drinking, and I couldn't phrase it any other way than you could feel the volume. Like I know when people now talk about like when they're getting a mouthful, they could feel the body of the beer. It's like this all sounds strangely erotic, but
like the warmth of it, like that.
Yeah, like
warmth. Yeah,
almost like when you were drinking whiskey and you could feel the heat come off of it right away. That alcohol burn, like that. This was just like coffee, but with like a kick to it. Just really dark, rich, and just comes at you with this heat after it, and it's like, whoa, this is one that you take your time drinking.
Because it's a big bottle as well, isn't it?
No, not. The looks are deceiving. It is a 330 ml.
Oh, it looks super long. Have they just stretched it out?
They've just been dipping it in candle wax.
They were doing all types of things
to give it that little extra edge. So that was Spey Valley Breweries, and yeah, it was great. I probably wouldn't have it again because it's strong, isn't it? So
rich, rich.
Rich and dark, but I reckon You know me. You know what kind of stout man I am.
Yeah.
There was no pudding flavors in there.
No, there was no milk,
Mm-hmm.
no
No,
UHT,
no.
no
Salted caramel.
no
Where's my fudge?
soy, no
Where's my
no.
latte? No, where's my
If
biscoff?
there's no there's no milk in the stout, the boys just
Why
not
doesn't this
happy.
taste like shortbread? Where's the
It
shortbread?
should do. It should do. That's what we all want. It's what we all crave in
What do you
our
mean
beer.
there's no sugar in this beer?
Terrible.
So,
It's getting it wrong over and over again. These beer companies.
but I'm glad to have it because it's been sat rolling about on the top shelf of my fridge for the last 4 months.
It's been a long time. Yeah, I remember when you picked it
Yeah,
up. So
I picked it at Christmas. Going, oh, guess what I'm doing tonight? Absolutely nothing.
I'm glad you finally got around to it, bud. Yeah, so
So-
that would definitely be a recommendation if you can find it.
If you can find it, if you see it in your local Lidl's, definitely. It was like
Brilliant.
maybe $2.99.
Sounds like it was definitely worth it.
So that's still cheaper than bottle shop prices. Imagine buying a 10% beer out of bottle shop. You'll be paying more than $2.99.
Come on, just skip
So-
your flat white from the Neros,
Exactly.
Cafe Neros, and pick yourself
You don't
up
need
an
the Greg's
Imperial
breakfast
Stout.
meal deal this Wednesday.
You don't, and I think the Imperial Stout is a better start to the day most of the time. It's the better option.
It warms you up.
It does in these cold summer days, spring days. It nice little bit of warmth, extra
Like, you
warmth.
said it right when you said the word days.
It's like a
You feel it after, like when you finish that. There's a nice hazy daze going on.
like a black.
You get
syrupy
soft around the
blanket.
corners. All of a sudden, you're wrapped in bubble wrap, and you're not angry about it.
That sounds amazing. So,
But-
anything else, Stu?
Yes, I'm holding back to the end of last season where we introduced the last beers bought
Let's
on
bring it in. Let's bring it back.
Friday. Our local Audi had rotated some of their stock and had been bringing in some new fierce beer.
Oh,
And
brilliant!
one particular bad boy I like to look of was this.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
It is Tropical Pale Ale.
Cool can art.
I know, and that's what kind of got me was this lovely can art. And then after I bought it and looked close, I was like, what type of beer did I just buy? Fruity Session Pale Ale.
Oh, wow.
And I'm always like, session. Like it's a marketing term. They're just trying to get you to get easier drinking beer. But this one's rocking at 5%.
Ooh.
So
that's a bit more than
that's hitting like the ceiling
such
of
beer.
session.
you will be in the scene after that, jumping on the
So-
couch after that. I mean, Fierce, say what you will about their beers, but I think I've said this in the past. The can art, always amazing, like always really kind of eye-catching.
Yeah,
Amazing
and
stuff.
I do enjoy a number of their beers. So I'm always happy to kind of see the new stuff hit the shelves.
Yeah.
I think they had like a double IPA out as well,
Come
rocking
on.
at near 8%.
Let's go. Let's
And-
do it.
I thought maybe if it's still there next time, then I'll buy a ticket for the ride. But we'll let that one go this time. And then in Asda's on the way home today, I wasn't planning on buying beer, but I somehow ended up in that aisle. So, you know, just a
Not
wee
your
bit window
Not your
shopping.
fault. Honestly.
And they sell Tripper, which is nothing new. Asda's sell Tripper for a while.
Hold on.
But
What?
this is the Trooper Number of the Beast 40th Anniversary Limited Edition artwork. Look at the
Wow.
cover of the album.
Oh, man.
Trooper, front and back,
That is amazing.
little touch and top, and I think it is a Flight of Icarus bottle cap.
That's incredible.
So,
That is incredible.
and I thought, because they teased this on their social media, and I thought, well,
Yeah.
they're a bunch of cock teasers already. They've done it with Senjutsu, Sun and Steel, and we never saw it. So when they
Yeah, I
started
can't believe it.
when
I
they
can't
started
believe it.
teasing the Number of the Beast Trooper bottles, and I thought, fucking teasing bastards, at it again. I'm not going to fall for it. And then, yeah, they had a shelf full in my
That's
local
amazing.
Asda's, and I was like, and I think maybe the bottle caps is like individual tracks from that album.
I think that I think that because it's just a change in the label, they are quite easy to come by. I do remember that what was it, the Halloween version of Trooper?
Oh yeah, the Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead version, yeah, that's quite common as well. It just seems to be when there's a new beer, you can't get your hands on it, but when there's new kind of label changes, they're quite easy to come by.
Yeah,
That's awesome, dude. Are you going to drink it or frame it?
Yes, I will drink it, and I might end up soaking the label, and how you could just wipe it off and then just stick it on the wall, let it dry out.
Fantastic.
This
Beautiful.
Decorated eventually.
Yeah, I've noticed you got some extra beer memorabilia in the background.
Yes, I'm not sure if I'll make
the place up a little bit.
To the video, but just a wee bit blue tack and slap these fuckers about.
Shout out. Amazing,
anyway.
Man. Amazing. A pretty damn good week.
Yes. Thomas, what about you? Have you been logging any lager lately?
I've been doing a bit of logging. Yeah, I thought I'd keep with the Scotch theme of this episode and reel off the last few stragglers from my Scotland 2022 beer 52 box. So I had a few last few to have a go on. Black Isle Brewery's Walrus.
Oh, okay.
It was a fairly watery oatmeal stout. It was unfiltered, it said, but I don't think that made a lot of difference.
There was no oatmeal floating in that stout then?
No, man.
Were you expecting to find oatmeal in there?
No, I do like a few curds sometimes with my whey, but no, there was nothing like that inside. I don't think it made a lot of difference, to be honest, for me. It was quite light, very soft, which is not a bad thing. It's just not really what I want from a stout. It always...
Maybe a good gateway stout.
Maybe. I think I've said it before. When the texture's a bit lighter with the stout, it doesn't sit right on belly for some reason. It was very similar to Belfield's Dark Sky Porter I mentioned previously on the show. Very similar kind of consistencies, taste profiles. It's not really my bag, but I can see why people like them because they're quite light to drink. The kind of more watery stouts. But, not really my thing. But Funky Drummer from 71 Brewing, man.
Yes.
Fantastic beer.
I agree.
Fantastic beer. Double IPA.
I had that the weekend, but I didn't want to talk about it. That was I described that one as, I don't know where I described it, but I said it's a good beer to make bad decisions with.
Yeah. There was a lot of bad decisions after this beer for sure. I won't go into on the show. I mean, save that for the Lager Logs only fans. But
I had a 10 of it, and then I noticed I had an invoice from Fiverr and Amazon. And it's like, what did I do last night? What? A new webcam? YouTube videos? What?
Financial decisions are made with beers like this. Yeah, it was crazy because it's kind of very refreshing, but at the same time very complex. And it had that, like we were saying, that nice alcoholic warmth to it as well, but not too in your face. Like it didn't kind of punch you in the face with it. It just like tickled your cheek a little bit with it. Bit of sweetness on the back end, very hazy. I really dug it. I really did. I couldn't see myself.
With it as well.
I'm really chuffed to hear that, man. I'm glad because I thought it was great. I don't think I'd have too many of them, but a couple of them.
That's a good one to kind of cap the evening with.
Definitely one to finish on. Not the sours. Bring in the double IPAs. That's the wiser decision. And the last one was a 6 Degree North's beer Madison, which is the West Coast IPA. I'm normally quite partial to a West Coast IPA. I think it's probably one of my favorite variants of it. But of the IPA style, but Jesus, this was just overwhelmingly bitter.
How carbonated was yours?
Not so much, I would say.
Yeah,
to be honest,
I tried that one. Like again, obviously we both kind of had similar tins in our boxes, but like I cracked it open and there was like no fizz, no bubble, like no carbonation whatsoever. Took a swig and I was like,
just flat.
Nah. Yeah,
mine wasn't flat, but it definitely wasn't particularly fizzy.
Yeah, I take it. I
What
felt
would
like I
say?
got a bad batch.
Yeah, bad batch probably, man.
Like
Yeah.
I was like, this should be better. It should be punchier, and it's just kind of like drinking it flat. I was like, man, it's like dishwater. I can't. Nah, I'm gonna have to find another beer.
I'd be disappointed if I was you. I would definitely get a refund on my free beer, for sure. I don't know. I don't know whether the West Coast style works very well for a high ABV beer. I mean, this guy was like 7.2%.
Hmm.
So it got me pissed, but it was a bit of a chore. It was just overwhelmingly kind of bitter.
Yeah,
But again, yeah, I think the West Coast IPA works a bit better at kind of like a kind of an average IPA around 5, maybe 6.
hmm,
Maybe not so much 7.2%, but yeah, I mean, as I say, I had a pretty decent time on it.
yeah.
I had pretty decent time when it was all finished, so I'd rate it for that for sure. But yeah, that was about it for me, Stuart. Okay, think we've both had pretty good weeks there. While we enjoy our brew and iron out any kinks, you guys get to enjoy our interview with the jazzy and joyful Geoff from the Brewgooders. So Tom and Stu from a couple of months ago, take it away. I really like those guys. More hair, less rings around their eyes, just filled with optimism and you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have another treat for you this evening. We have Geoff from the Brewgooders. Geoff,
Never been
say
called
hello. Say say hello.
Hey,
How
I
are you,
have.
man?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
Doing
It's
okay? Doing
Monday.
okay?
I'm a school teacher, so Mondays are I don't know. You're still in the
So you just moonlight as a beer podcaster.
yeah,
Ah, okay.
or moonlight as a teacher. I've not worked
Ah.
out which. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, so seeing as we have you here and we can kind of we've got time to get into your background and stuff and your history and if sorry with you, we'd like to start from the top and kind of get into where your introduction to craft beer started. What was it that kind of began the journey for you?
I don't know. That's not the best start considering you asked me to look at the questions beforehand. I tell you what, we were talking about this on our podcast last week. I would actually say when I was starting to date my wife, so about 12, 13 years ago, I went to the Good Food Show in the SEC, the Scottish Exhibition Centre in Glasgow. They had like this big food show and like the hairy bikers do like cooking demonstrations and like Paul Hollywood's there and stuff like that, and then Gordon Ramsay was there as well, which is pretty cool. Watching him swear live, it's quite smart. But there's also loads of like food and drink companies that you can just go around and sample. And I remember Brewdog were there, so a bit of a swear word now, I think. But Brewdog were there, and I
We'll
think what
bleep
this
it
was
in the edit, don't worry.
yeah, thanks. It would have been about 2009, I want to say. So they're still a microbrewery at that point, maybe, or just kind of verging
Just
on
starting
becoming
out.
bigger. Yeah. And I remember their old packaging as well, where it was like every label, every beer was a different color, but the label, they've rebranded differently, and their branding's changed in the last few while. But yeah, I remember they had a really nice blonde beer called Trashy Blonde that I really liked, and then obviously Punk IPA, which is obviously still their kind of stalwart in brew. Yeah, so I want to say that is, I think a lot of folk would maybe say that. I don't know how many times you've like Brewdog is probably for a lot of people a gateway beer in it. So it's like your first kind of taste of something different, and then I don't know. I try and get people to drink. If folk are asking me, what's a good kind of starter beer without like going to it's like a beer shop and spending a fortune, I would probably say something like Gamma Ray by Beaverton or something like that. Yeah, yeah. Just anything that's not Brewdog.
Do you lean more towards the kind of Beavertown range?
I like IPAs, and I like obviously New England IPAs in particular. I like NEPAs. So at the moment, because probably if I like to drink craft beer or craft style beer, and after Beavertown are probably one of the more accessible. They kind of sell them in most places now. Most supermarkets have them now. So, but yeah, I would kind of lean that way for sessional stuff, definitely.
That's good. I'm glad that we've got you on record for just loving beaver. So glad we got that down.
Yeah.
Right,
Perfect.
okay, that's
Cheers,
the
bud.
last. That's the last.
That's genuinely where you were going with that.
Maybe.
He's been sitting on that line for like 2 minutes.
Quicker if I knew.
When you were explaining that there, that kind of answered our second question when we were saying which way does your taste buds lean when it comes to beer? If you're more of a going for the traditional brews or for the more exotic craft beers.
Just as and when, it depends really. Summertime, definitely. I really like fruity beers. I know when we talk on the Brewgooders, what I quite like is our sort of community taste buds are really different. But I tend to, I don't know, if you'd ask me like my proper leanings, and it's probably why we kind of leant towards when we made our own beer. Like, I want to say my ideal beer is like a 6.3% New England IPA, and that's where if you had back the wall pick a beer, that would be my sort of, I don't know, desert island disc beer would be that. But I mean, I think every beer's got its place. We've got a pub in Dunfermline that I go to on a Sunday afternoon, and they've got Charisma, which is a beer by Alchemy. I think they're a kind of newish brewery coming out of Livingston in Scotland, and they've got a beer. I think it's 3.7%, and it's just a great sessional, cask pint. So like it depends as and where, and we talk about that quite a lot on the podcast as well. There's even like Budweiser and Bud Light and Heineken, and it all has its place, But
yeah,
certainly I like, I don't know, something slightly more exotic.
Oh, so was that kind of, did that go hand in hand with you wanting to create the Brewgooders? Was it out of love of beers of that type, or kind of where did it initially all come from? Where was it born?
About 3 years ago now, so about nowish. So I've known Colin for quite a while, so it's the podcast started out as me and Colin in about April 2019. And it was due to the fact that about 3 years ago this weekish, our the comic book shop that we frequent in Dunfermline, which is the Little Shop of Heroes, we're both like long-term customers there. A craft beer merchant opened up a couple doors down. So me and Colin found that like a big part of our Saturdays was to, because we both live and work in Dunfermline, it was, on a Saturday morning, it was get breakfast, go to the comic shop, go to the beer shop, enjoy both, and that was kind of a Saturday.
Yeah,
and we just kind of went from there. We had podcasted with Colin before in projects about 5 or 6 years ago, and they kind of never came to anything. But we were just like, we enjoyed that bit. What bits did we enjoy? And it was like, I quite liked it when we learned about comics and got drunk. So we decided to base a podcast about that, and that's kind of where it started. And we came up with a name before we realised there was already a beer named after us, or the Brewgooders. But I thought it was being super duper clever, because originally when years and years ago, my dream was to open a comic book shop that also like moonlit as a coffee shop, and it would have been called the Brewgooder. But
okay.
That's where we got the idea from there, and then for the name at least from there, and then I say a couple of weeks later, somebody drew our attention to the fact that there's the beer that does for every pint you buy, they're able to like contribute money towards like water products or projects in developing countries, which so they're better than us, but.
So in an alternate reality, it would be a coffee-based podcast.
Oh, maybe. We talk about that quite a lot. We've got we're hoping in the next couple of weeks to month-ish working with Dave Cook, who is a comic writer. He wrote what's his series called again? He wrote a cyberpunk series, but is like we've had him on the podcast a couple of times talking about like things like the Matrix, and he really just talking about sci-fi stuff basically. While we've been drinking, I'll need to remember what. I'm totally annoyed that slipped my mind. But we were going to do an alternative podcast where because as well as writing comics, he writes coffee table books for computer games.
Okay.
he's got a series out just now called Beat 'em Up, which is sort of the history of side-scrolling Streets of Rage type games.
Oh, okay, awesome.
So we were chatting with him, and we're going to do an alternative reality podcast where we go to. There's a place in Edinburgh that does N64 games. I think it's called something like Cafe 64 or something. But it does. It's a cocktail bar. So we thought we were going to do like 1 week without like making any predetermined reference. We're just going to go, welcome to the Brewgooders, the cocktail and retro computer games podcast, and see how long it takes for people to start complaining, you know.
Good idea. Spring it on them. That sounds really good, like a really good idea, yeah.
So also you mentioned how the show started in 2019. How did the show have to adapt for like when obviously the pandemic and lockdown restrictions were put into effect? How did that affect the show?
Quite significantly. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's actually what the saying means, right? But effectively, like for the first year-ish that we were a podcast, we pre-recorded, and we would meet. Either Colin would come to my house or I'd go to his, and we would bring a couple beers each and a couple comics each, and we would try and we would share the beer and go through like the tasting aspects of the beer at the same time, and obviously we just talk about comics, and usually like one of us would, you know, it was a good excuse to swap comics and like double up our reading for like no extra money. And then we did kind of called them Brew Good on Tour episodes, where we went to like beer festivals or comic events and then streamed about it either on the bus or in the pub afterwards, and those were quite fun as well. Obviously when lockdown happened, it became very it changed everything, and for almost 2 years now it's become our sort of, I don't know, 80 episodes in, it's probably our regular format now, is the one that we adopt now, which is we kind of buy our beers separately, and just we spend 15-20 minutes at the start of our podcast chatting through the beers and any sort of beer related news that's going on and stuff that we'd had in the week, and then we do the same with comics. But also loads of guests. Like guests were quite a rare thing on the podcast originally. We do, when we did Brew Good on tours, we would go to a pub in Edinburgh, or we did Edinburgh, we did Dunfermline, and we kind of just put like an open, like we're going to be here. It'd be really nice if folk could join us. And we got Barry Lumsden and Stephen Ingram, who are both Central Scotland based comic writers, and they came and joined us, and that was a lovely evening. Whereas now we've we kind of just message folk and see if any guests want to join us. Yeah. And that's, you know, that's created some really, really interesting discussions with some really interesting folk who maybe we wouldn't have been able to, or we wouldn't have thought to have reached out to or engaged with beforehand. So it's changed. I think I enjoy it, and I love the way our podcast goes now. I'm looking forward to the fact that we're going to try and start to do more like together podcasts where we're back in the same room and that again, which would be great. But I think that will just become added dynamic to what we already do. You know, I think podcasts have done quite well out of the pandemic. You know, this, you know.
I'd say so. Yeah.
We're certainly coming out of the pandemic in a much better position, I think, than when we went into it. You know, we were quite niche. Our listenership was really localized, whereas it's not anymore. So we've got folk that will join us from. You guys will be the same. You get folk that come and say hi from all over the place. You know, we've got a guy in New Jersey that always says good evening or good afternoon when we're on, and we've got an artist in Brazil, Tomas, who always says hi. You know, and chimes in about whatever the local Brazilian craft beer he's drinking at that moment in time is, and it's just really, it's quite amazing. Yeah. So
brilliant. A lot of good to have come out of the lockdown, it seems, for the show. What were, thinking back, other than the ones that you mentioned, some of your favourite episodes or interviews, anything that kind of comes to mind, springs to mind?
We've had a few. What I've really enjoyed is there's podcasts where we've interviewed people and then they've become mates, which is, I think, super, super, super awesome. So we had obviously the first summer of lockdown, we had Dave Cranagh, a comic writer from Glasgow who writes he writes this amazing series called Glass City, which is sort of in a near future, like sort of noir / dystopian Glasgow, and it's really good. But he's now a host on the show, so he went from being guest to friend to host, which was really cool.
So
and good friend. And same with Andrew, who's our comic book. He owns a comic book shop, the Kingdom Comics and Games in Kirkcaldy. Originally came on as a guest to talk about kind of, there was around about the time he came on, there was an issue with an issue with global distribution of comics, and it was like a big thing. There was like, Marvel and DC stuff wasn't making it over to the UK for a couple of weeks, so we brought him on just to give us sort of an insider perspective, and then he's just like not gone away. It's almost
he started paying rent.
And and so like, and there's loads of comic writers and stuff who like now that we're going back to Comic Cons and stuff like that, it's bumping into people we know that we've interviewed that regard us as friends and will message us, and that's been amazing. Yeah. So there's been that aspect, but then last year as well, like we started to get a wee bit bolder with who we invited on, and seeing if like reach for bigger names and see what happens. So we got Dave McKean on last year, who is a comic artist. He was Neil Gaiman's sort of. He was Neil Gaiman's like go-to artist for a long time, and he drew the what's the series called, Arkham Asylum. He wrote the first big kind of graphic novel of that, which is sort of the benchmark for Arkham Asylum series, but it's also probably one of the blueprints for the computer games. So that was pretty smart. He's done loads and loads of stuff. He's even illustrated stuff for Heston Blumenthal's like cookbooks and stuff like that. Did some work with Professor Richard Dawkins. So it was just really cool to have him on. We had Dave Pugh, who was an artist for Slane in the 80s, sort of.
Oh, okay.
He was cool. He was really smart because like you could just ask him a question and let him go for 20 minutes because he lives in the Philippines now. I think it's the Philippines, and just is in like retirement and has been for a while, and will just chat to anybody that wants to chat about his comic career, which was really smart. And then I think probably for me the big one. I mean, they're all big and it's amazing meeting loads of folk, and it feels like we just have some really amazing folk that we can turn to and chat now. But we managed to get Kevin Eastman on for 15 minutes last summer, and he co-created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Yeah. So that was kind of like, that was totally surreal because I had to I interviewed him at like 1 a.m. because he was doing a press. He was kind of doing like a digital press tour, and so all the people interviewing him were given 15-minute slots. But I was the last one of the day, so it was like 4 p.m. his time, 1 a.m. our time, and I think he was tired. I was knackered, but he just chatted, and I maybe got an extra 10 minutes time with him just because of the luck of the sort of the timing. Yeah, it was just hearing him talk about like where he got the idea for like naming them all after like Renaissance painters, and or the new Turtle series, The Last Ronin, is incredible. It's probably one of the coolest comic books to come out in a while, and for him to be like, to him to be talking about that as if we would every other guest we have that want to big up their new series, and he's like bigging up his series, and they're like, man, you're talking about like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then like, and I asked him a similar question to what you just asked me, where it was like, what parts of your career or your time and are you most proud of? And he started talking about when the movie came out and when he got to work with Jim Henson, and I'm like, that's so awesome. Like, I've never known anyone that can name drop Jim Henson before. They start chatting about beer, I was like, did you drink beer? And he's like, oh yeah, and he just was like chatting about stouts for 10 minutes as well. It was great.
One beer to bind us all, eh?
Yeah, totally.
Me and Tom first became savvy with the Brewgooders when Cool Brewing advertised a virtual beer tasting that you organised. I just thought it would be a good chance for you to tell us what went into the organisation of this event. Have you sort of done stuff like that before?
Not really that kind of thing. It just through the first year and a half of the podcast, and one of the things that we always try and talk about on the podcast is local beers. So we'd met with Mark, the brewer at Cool, quite a few times. Actually, like I was saying earlier about making friends with folk, originally, me and Mark were going to start metal detecting together. Because in a bizarre offshoot of hobbies, that's just something me and him are both into as well. So I've been chatting back and forth with Mark and got quite friendly with him, and Ian along at Beath. I'd been going out to the brewery to pick up growlers during lockdown as well, because I don't know if you guys recall, but apart from going to the supermarket, it was quite tricky to get beers, and I just wanted to take advantage of the fact that Dunfermline, within at one point I think we were told you couldn't go more than 5 miles, and within that 5 mile radius, there was access to really good beer if I approached the brewery and take advantage of delivery services and stuff like that. And then Steve Hope at Brew Shed in Lincolns as well. Like me and Colin had gone down to the brewery. It was one of our first Brewgood tours actually, was to just hang out with him in his garden and drink beer that he was brewing out of his shed. It was really smart. So there were just names that we had, and then we just wanted to do something. We'd been planning. I remember. Do you remember, like, towards the end of the first year of the first lockdown year? Was it 2020? It feels like it all blends together. 2020, was that the first lockdown year?
I think so. Yeah.
Towards the end of that, like, I can remember sort of New Year coming around and being like, oh, thank goodness this year's finished. 2021 is going to be so much better. And then by about February, it was like, oh, this is just much of the same. So we'd already talked about like trying to organise a night out, and we used to do it before lockdown, where we basically just put up on Facebook. Me and Colin would be like, oh, we're out in Dunfermline, we're going to start here, and then we're going to move here. We'd really like it if folk could join us, and so we'd been planning on doing that. And then they just kept getting put back, or like obviously restrictions were getting lifted, then like reinstated, and it was just getting really annoying. So we just decided to try and do something, and then no financial interest on our part. So it was like just making something that would be fun. We'd allow different folk to try different beers. We would allow for a wee bit of charity. I think we made like 70 quid for Chaz, and that's something we'd Colin. I know Colin's been involved quite heavily with Capital Sci-Fi Con, which is a comic convention in Edinburgh that happens every February, March-ish, and obviously that had to go digital last year, like most comic cons did, and it was just and normally I know Colin spends quite a lot of time. He's created comic anthologies where the proceeds went to Caledonian, and it was just an excuse for folk, like-minded beer drinkers, to get drunk and try new beer and hear from the brewers, but also maybe do a wee bit for charity. I kind of just enjoy doing events. I don't know. I've always have. I'm the friend of the group, of all my friendship groups, who runs the WhatsApp group or does the spreadsheet,
organises the events.
Yeah, I the spreadsheet for the fives on a Sunday night and all the nonsense. I saw a thing on Facebook that suggested that the friend who admins the WhatsApp group and does the spreadsheet is the backbone of British society that nobody ever talks about. I quite like organising things. I don't know why. I quite like doing. If there's a party that needs planned, or like a night out where folk need to sort the taxis and the buses and what pubs are we going to and what order in the crawl. I quite like to do that. I don't know why. So it's just an excuse to do something like that, even when we were in lockdown. And just get to meet new folk. We met yourselves. There was folk that had always sort of chimed in the pod, like Dave Crana, for example, again, where folk were popping into the podcast, and every Thursday we go live, so folk like drop wee comments and stuff, and then we have a kind of a blether with folk that are watching us, and it was an excuse to actually be in a room with them, and it was nice. It was a really, I don't know. I noticed a few folk. I don't know about yourselves, but I know I did. But I put a shirt on for the night, even though I was sitting in my living room.
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'll make a good appearance, obviously, for the rest of the guys.
It was the closest thing to a night out that I think a lot of us have had in a long time. And
yeah, it definitely felt like that. Yeah. And me and Stu were just happy because we thought after our performance, you never speak to us again. So it's good to be able to chat to you tonight.
This has been a long time coming. Actually, I think we've meant to have you on our podcast, and then vice versa. And I don't know what's, but
No, it's
Like
good to.
we had you on last year, didn't we? And it's been amazing. So
Yeah.
have you on every week. We need to sort that out. I don't know what that means, but
I'm sure you'll sort it out though.
maybe spreadsheet. It's that's probably again like talking about like all the negatives that kind of came out of lockdown. Sort of like I found the circle of friends and the circle of folk that I've met got massively wide, and it's just really nice. Me and Colin went to Thought Bubble last year, which is sort of I want to say I've not been to many, but I think it's UK's most prestigious sort of indie comics event. So it's 3 kind of massive halls in Harrogate where it's just folk that have got tables with their independent stuff. There's sort of big comic writers there as well, but like big name comic writers who work for the sort of the bigger companies. But it's just nice. It's a nice place for like independent guys to meet up and hang out. And it was nice. Like me and Colin went, and there's loads of guys that we'd had. I wouldn't say about 30 or 40 of the previous guests that we'd never met face to face were in the hall and were like coming out to see us and give us cuddles, and it was just nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think you'd already touched upon it before, but another obviously noteworthy event for you or for the show in general was your collaboration with local brewery, and you ended up releasing your own craft beer speech bubble. Was it called?
Yes.
How did that all happen? I mean, it was with Beef Brewing, right?
Yeah, Beef Brewing and Cown Beef. It kind of came around kind of funny. So Colin initially, I want to say in about September, was like, it was if somebody Googles it, they'll be able to tell me exactly when it was. But there was a Saturday where it was International Comic Book Day, and none of us knew about it, and we were like, that's a bit of a, considering we run, it's one of those things that you're like, we should be one of the experts on that topic. So the fact that we don't know anything about it just shows you how kind of underappreciated, at least in Scotland or in British comics, how underappreciated International Comic Book Day is. So Colin was like, so Colin had done like loads of Googling, and that was like, there isn't such thing as Scottish Comic Book Day. And actually all the hashtags and at stuff that you can do on Twitter, all the Twitter handles and that, they're all free for Scottish Comic Book Day. So we should do something. So originally the idea was just to like retweet that hashtag on the day, and then after about a couple of weeks of kind of running the Facebook pages and the Twitter pages for that event, it was growing arms and legs exponentially. It was actually quite exciting. And as I say, the organizer of me was like, I want to do something as part of this. I think we should do something as part of this. And I was like, we should do the after party. That would be quite funny. And it's an excuse for us all to get around a beer, get around a table for a beer. But then again, that kind of grew arms and legs, and it's like we could go to a local brewery. We could use contacts and go for that. So we met with the Haberdashery, which is a pub in Dunfermline, which my wife's friend owns, Darren, and we met with him and sort of shared our idea. And then about an hour later, we're like, he's like, yeah, just go to the brewery. I'll front half of the money required to do a small batch. Wow. Yeah, originally we were just going to have like an after party, but then we were chatting, and he sells Beef Brewing stuff behind the bar. It's one of the only pubs in Fife, one of I think maybe a half dozen pubs in Fife that you can go to and just buy cans of the stuff over the counter. So he was like, so he had a good relationship, and we have a good relationship with Ian, having been long-term customers, and so we just approached Beef Brewing and we're like, well, we do it. And he was like, yeah, totally. So we again, like, he was like, what kind of beer do you want to make? And we were like, I don't know if any of you guys have had Beef Brewing, but they've got a beer called Dance Monkey, which is incredible. Yeah. And so we sort of like kind of something that's Dance Monkey-ish in terms of like alcohol content, because it's like 7.1. We were going like, I went in and I was like, if you could do Dance Monkey with like major notes of peach at 6.2, 6.3, that sounds like my ideal beer. And we just went with that, something peachy around about the 6% mark, and see what happens. And then it came out at 7.1, and the after party happened, and we sold loads of it, but we were all like hanging really badly on the Sunday.
I'll bet, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. and working with Beef was really interesting. Taking part in brewing was amazing. Colin designed the labelling, but so it was all kind of done in house. Colin designed the label, Beef printed it, and then me and my 12-year-old son were in Beef 2 nights beforehand with their 3D printed labelling device.
Oh wow!
And so it was just good. It was nice. It was like to think, like, to be part of that process. Like,
yeah,
I know me and Andrew went up to do some of the mixing and fighting over the paddle and stuff for like mixing the malts in and stuff. I totally recommend it if anybody lives near a small brewing or is friends with a brewery. Just ask to get involved in a brew day. I imagine most, like, we'd been talking back and forth with Beef for ages, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm doing a brew on Tuesday. You can pop up on a Tuesday and just take part."
It's incredible. Cool. Yeah, it's incredible.
I think I can imagine it being quite addictive as well. It's a bit like I think I've been to like big breweries before, and you do the brewery tour. Like, I've done it at Fine Apes, and I've done it at the big one, the Black Isle Brewing, just north of Inverness. I've done the brewery tours there, but they're so big and industrial. Whereas, like, when you go to a craft brewer, like a small, like, micro brewery, it's like a mad scientist lab, and there's all these like tubes and hoses and like things are bubbling in that. It's just really cool, and it smells amazing, and you're like,
it's just taking place in someone's kitchen.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so let's get to the softball questions now. Geoff, what is your favourite pub to go to and enjoy a beer?
Loads. Ones that sell alcohol. So in Dunfermline, I've mentioned Haberdashery. That's like a speakeasy style bar, which used to be, growing up in Dunfermline, before it was a haberdashery, it was called the Watering Hole, and it's where every 15-year-old, it was like a rites of passage to try and get sold there, and then try and go to the town to one of the nightclubs, when you're through a Dutch courage. But yeah, it's now it's quite classy. It's really nice. They do really good Middle Eastern style food, and you can buy kind of Overtone and beef, cans of Overtone and beef, and you can get pints of Beavertown, and it's just really nice. And then we have a camera pub up the town, which called the Commercial, which is right in the centre of Dunfermline, and that's really good because they're constantly changing the fonts. So I go up there on a Sunday. So if anybody actually wants to come, you'll find me on a Sunday. Me and my friends are usually like the boys from the Brewgooders are there, or there'll be a couple of us playing like backgammon or just messing about. But it's a Sunday, and it's usually quite quiet. And they have some really awesome, like, I was there yesterday, and they had loads of the Alchemy brewing stuff, and then they had Jarl, which is like the session IPA that Fine do, and then loads of Stewart stuff on cask as well. So it's just and it changes every week. So you go in every week, and there's a new IPA on, or they've changed the barrel. So that's really good to go to. And there's a tenants pub in Dunfermline that I'm really partial to as well, called the Monarch. The lady that owns it, my wife has a shop in the town, and my wife owns a shop in Dunfermline, and the lady that owns the Monarch is her landlord. So I'm kind of biased to that place anyway, because it's run by a really nice family. But they've got a Drygate tap, and I think Drygate is. Considering it's like a tenant spin-off, isn't it? It's a tenant's owned craft style beer brewery. I think they're quite underrated. They've got some quite nice beers in there. So yeah, we're quite lucky in Dunfermline. There's other places as well. The Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant, which is a beer shop that kind of was partially massively responsible for the start of the podcast. They've installed taps as well. So. They've got a tasting room, so I think the maximum capacity of 6 people can sit in there. But you're getting some of the best beer available on tap there. So
yeah,
lovely stuff. Well, speaking of recommendations, do you have a beer recommendation you'd like to drop on the listeners? Something that you find quite easily in shops, supermarkets?
Yeah, it depends. Like, I'm really enjoying stuff that Salt are doing just now. You can buy them in most Asda's. Well, I didn't mention supermarkets. That's a. I think they're Asda are knocking it out the park a wee bit at the moment with I think they've got Salt and Vocation are the two breweries that they kind of got in house. And most of the stuff that they're putting out is there's an IPA that Vocation do called Life or Death or Life and Death. It's quite nice. So just something along there. And I don't know. If you asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago or 2 or 3 months ago, I would have been throwing you. I would have just been like, Brewdog gets a bad reputation, but the beer's okay. But actually, like, we're all boycotting that now. So
post documentary, we're all boycotting, right? Yeah, okay.
I do think quite an underrated beer is the anti-establishment one that Aldi do, which is like their it's called it's their punk IPA, but it's cheaper a can knockoff that I think it's actually quite good. And I know we've talked about it on the podcast. It's as good, if not sometimes better than punk IPA, despite the fact that I think it was made with its tongue in its cheek, to try and
I hear it's pretty good. I hear it comes with 75% less sexual harassment. That beer does. It's a good one. It's a good one, guys. Check it out. Check it out.
Yeah, it's not got. Yeah, we talked about that last week. It's like it's an enjoyable beer with no overtones of like feeling uncomfortable in your workplace. And
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Right, and to round it up, Geoff, all we need for you now is just to sort of promote your social media for the show, or if there's any other groups that you kind of want to highlight and just bring to the attention of our listeners. Now's the time.
I think I need to clear up what I was saying earlier about Dave Cook, because I felt really bad for forgetting that Kiltopia was the name of his series.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of our social media, I really we're at the Brewgooders on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on TikTok. But I tried to get down with the kids. I don't get it. I don't get TikTok. We do have a TikTok. It's got like 4 videos, and they're just screenshots from the show with what I think are clever pieces of music.
Okay.
You all just need to do synchronized dancing. I think that's what is.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Please check out Colin Maxwell, who's my co-host and one of my best mates. He's got at Maximize Comics. You check him out. He works for DC Thompson. Does stories for there, which is, I don't know, after the second or third biggest comic company in the UK. I think after Rebellion maybe. The DC Thompson did the Commando comics, which were the old wee they are the old wee A5 war comics that you used to pick up when you went to see your granddad, and stuff like that. And so he's writing them, and amazing. And then you've got at Glass City Comics, so Dave Crana, as I said earlier, does he's our other host, does a comic book series set in sort of a dystopian noir-esque Glasgow. And obviously check out at Kingdom Comics and Games, which is this shop in Kirkcaldy run by my pal Andrew, another host of the podcast. And I've got a comic series as well, but at the Spirit of Inky, which is a TV, not TV series. I hope it's going to be a TV series
one day. That's a project. Get out there.
Well, that was like we were at a Thought Bubble. I saw there was a presentation held by one of the guys who is one of the ones I don't really know. I think is it Frank Quietly? I think it may not be his name. Somebody will need to correct me. But one of the guys behind The Walking Dead, who's not one of the guys you immediately think of.
Right.
He was doing a presentation about, it was like called Comics to Big Screen and Back, and he was talking about like a lot of comic creators will go and try and get something, try and get a table at the big one, San Diego, because apparently Hollywood executives get sent, like hundreds of them get sent out there specifically just to walk around the tables and go, has that been optioned for a TV series yet? I'll buy that, and they'll do that. So like, so there's a hope that if a studio picks up your comic and likes it, then you might be on Netflix in a couple of years, or something like that. So the Spirit of Inky is the series I write is a superhero series set in Iraq, and during all the kind of horrific troubles that go on there, and it's so please check that out if you're inclined.
Of course, guys. Yeah, check that out, and check the rest of all that stuff out. It's been a pleasure to have you on, Geoff, and I'm glad we finally kind of sat down and did this, bud, and got a chance to chat kind of 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. So it's been brilliant, mate. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me anytime, and I hope to have you guys on the Brewgooders soon. And
definitely, yeah, make it happen.
Awesome, cool. Cheers, guys.
Stu,
Thomas.
I hope that. I just want to say thank you for doing a good job on that interview. It was fantastic. Well done. Just want to congratulate you.
I personally would like to thank Geoff.
Yeah, that probably would make more sense.
Coming on to the show.
Yeah. Thanks, Geoff. Shout
again. If you want to hear more of Geoff and his cronies, look up the Brewgooders. I think the full title is The League of Beers and Comics.
Yes.
Put that into Facebook. They do live shows Thursday nights from, I believe, 8 p.m. And if you're listening to this prior to, let's look at the calendar.
Let's check it out.
It is the 31st of March. So Thursday, the 31st of March. If all goes well, me and your boy Tom will be on the Brewgooders.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Very episode. As soon as I promote anything on this podcast, Tom fucking changes it.
I know you've got ballroom dancing lessons on that night, and you can't make it. So stop lying to the people.
Stop, you bastard. So, Tom, what do you think of this beer? You know, it's made from girders.
It's not bad. Not bad drink at all. Again, if I'm gonna go and go for a beer and drink a beer, it's not normally something I would pick, but much like the Bacchus that we discussed earlier, it's an enjoyable beverage. It stands on its own as a sour beer, and I mean, if you want a beer that tastes like Iron Brew, this is it, my friends.
If you want to get pissed off Iron Brew, you'll get there eventually.
This is it. Yeah, it's almost got like wheat beer kind of, not wheat beer, like maybe Belgian beer kind of aftertaste to it.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a stretch, but that's the closest thing, or the closest kind of I don't know, normal beer, or closest kind of standard beer that I can think of that I would liken it to.
Yeah.
Okay. Time is up.
Oh, jeez, that time already.
Let's finish this bad.
I'll get my coat on.
Look, you can join me because I'm off to Glasgow again to grab a pint of Iron Brew on draft, mix it up with a little Glen's vodka, and voila, my new Scottish party drink. Pour your Buckfast down the drain. Donate that bottle of Johnny Walker to your local hobo. I've got the recipe for a real classy time. Stu, are you coming with me or not? Or don't seem as enthusiastic as I do. It's at the.
I'll get you on the next one.
It's at the Lager Logs.
I'll meet you there.
For all things Lager Logs. Cheers, guy. On Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Stu, we have some exciting social experiments coming up. Yes, not just harassing people in public and calling them pranks, right? Although I do like it when we do that. We've got other things to offer. What have we got?
Unboxing videos. Like, how much do we want to peek behind the curtain here? We have been getting, we've been getting more free beer, which, like, God bless the people and God bless us. Thank you. We've got things to do in May. We've planned a couple more visits to your favorite discount supermarkets.
Yeah.
Like, think back to season 1. What was the theme?
A lot of throwbacks this season. I think we're running out of ideas, like I mentioned previously. It might be true, actually. I was joking before, but it might be true.
When in doubt, pull out the greatest hits.
There we go. That's the motto of the show, the mentality of this show. Yeah, lots of exciting things to look forward to, guys. Next week, the testing on human subjects continues. as doing it on animals would be cruel. And we hear from Dave McGowan, director and co-owner of Broughton Brewery, an absolutely lovely chap. We had a blast talking his ear off for far too long. And we appreciate him putting up with us for an extended period of time. They hooked us up very kindly with a bunch of brews, which we'll be getting into on the show. But our main review will be of their Stout Jock, which I think has to be my most anticipated beer of the season. Been in the fridge so long, I'm going to need a lolly stick to shove into that sucker. Bon voyage, booze hounds. Say goodbye, Stuart.
Goodbye.
Okay, I've brought my own sound clips, brought my YouTube clips. Not this. That's not it. This is not it. This is extremely long advert. This is not good. This is not what I want right now. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. No. No. It's like the crazy frog is back. There we go. Okay. Hide and seek. Tell the kids about that one. That sounds great. It's available on the App Store.